The first thing I noticed was the silence. That's what hit me the hardest. Not the smell, not the wine glasses, not even the stranger's jacket, though we'll get to all of that. It was the kind of silence that doesn't belong in a lived-in house. Felt staged, like walking into a showroom, not a home. My home. I hadn't planned on being back so soon. A meeting with a new client got canceled. The guy had some emergency on his end, so I packed up my laptop, grabbed a coffee, and figured I'd make the most of the afternoon at home. I even thought maybe Claire and I could go out for a spontaneous dinner. We hadn't done that in a while. The moment I opened the front door, something felt off. You know that weird, instinctive gut reaction? The kind that doesn't make logical sense, but still grabs the base of your spine and yanks? That's what this was. Claire appeared in the doorway to the living room a second after I stepped inside. She was wearing one of her nicer tops, the silky navy one I always told her looked great on her, paired with leggings like she tried to dress it down. But her hair was freshly done and her makeup wasn't her usual minimal workday touch-up. It was more deliberate. "Ethan?" she said, blinking like the light from the open door hurt her eyes. "You're home early." "Yeah. Meeting got canceled," I said, setting my bag down. "Figured I'd come back and—" I stopped mid-sentence. My eyes had landed on the living room behind her. On the table, 2 wine glasses. One had smudged lipstick on the rim. The other had fingerprints. Both half-finished, just enough to make it obvious this wasn't a solo thing. A bottle of Cabernet sat between them, open, uncorked. The good one we'd been saving for our anniversary. We weren't supposed to drink that until next month. Claire's body shifted, subtly blocking my line of sight. "I didn't think you'd be home until later." "Neither did I." I walked in slowly, trying not to sound accusatory. I glanced toward the chair closest to the window, and that's when I saw it. A man's suit jacket draped over the back. Gray wool, slim cut. Definitely not mine. I looked at her. She was standing too still. Her smile was tight, her eyes darting quickly to the jacket, then back to me. "Jason stopped by," she said. "You remember Jason from my old firm, right? He had some legal documents he needed me to look over. Just a quick favor." Her voice was too prepared. The kind of calm that didn't come naturally, it was performed. "Didn't know we were doing house calls now," I said lightly, keeping my voice neutral. She gave a tight laugh. "He was in the area. Figured it was easier than emailing everything and playing phone tag." She walked over to the table and started collecting the glasses. It wasn't a big deal. That smell hit me again. A cologne I didn't recognize, musky and sharp, the kind that lingers in the air long after the wearer is gone. It clashed with the red wine and the lavender scent she usually sprays in the room. It wasn't Jason's presence that disturbed me. It was the absence of everything else. The rushed cleanup, the jacket, the damn wine glasses. "You just finished the wine?" I asked, gesturing. "Yeah, we each had half a glass." She said it quickly, too quickly. "Didn't finish the bottle. I was just gonna cork it when you walked in." There was something in her tone. Not irritation, not guilt, just calculation. "I'm gonna go get changed," I said finally, feeling the weight of her stare as I turned away. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. I could still hear her moving around downstairs. The sound of clinking glass, the faucet running. She was probably rinsing out any trace of those 2 glasses. Any evidence that might have mattered, not legally but emotionally. I'm not a jealous guy. At least, I've never considered myself one. Claire's always been social. Her job, her circle of friends. It's a different world from mine. She's a corporate lawyer. I work in renovation and property development. We're not exactly from the same side of the professional tracks, but we've made it work for over a decade. Still, something in that scene downstairs didn't sit right. It wasn't just the wine. It was the way she explained things. The ease, the polish, like she'd already run the script in her head and was just waiting for her cue. I didn't say anything else that evening. We ate leftovers. She asked how my meeting went and I gave a vague answer. She mentioned Jason again, casually this time, something about him working on a new investment property upstate. I nodded, pretending to care. Inside, My mind was replaying the way her voice had cracked when she said his name. Barely a tremor, but enough. Later, after she went to bed, I went downstairs and looked again at the wine glasses. She hadn't put them in the dishwasher, just the sink. One had a faint lipstick stain on the rim, pinkish nude. Hers. The other was smudged with fingerprints on the bowl, the kind you get when you cradle the glass with your whole hand. Not how I drink. I picked up the jacket still hanging over the chair. Checked the inside label. Designer brand. Expensive. And then I did something I'm not proud of. I reached into the inside pocket. There was a business card tucked in there. Jason McAllister. Okay. So maybe that part was true. He existed. He was real. But it didn't make me feel better. If anything, it made things worse. This wasn't some random stranger. This was someone with a name. A history. Someone with her trust. I put the card back. Hung the jacket neatly on the coat rack instead of the chair. Walked back upstairs like everything was normal. She stirred as I got into bed. Everything okay? She mumbled. Yeah, I lied. She rolled over. Her back to me. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the subtle sound of her breath settling into sleep. But mine didn't. Because something had changed. I didn't know what yet. I didn't have proof. But you don't need proof when the balance of your life shifts so suddenly that you don't recognize the shape of your own house. You just need to feel it. And I felt it in the wine, the silence, the cologne, the lies that were dressed as harmless truths. Something had cracked open. And I knew, deep in my gut, it wouldn't be the last time I asked myself, what's really going on here? The next morning, I watched Claire pour her coffee like nothing had happened. Her motions were smooth, habitual. She asked if I wanted toast, which she never did. I said no. She shrugged, sat down, and scrolled through her phone. Normal. Too normal. I kept looking at her hands, pale, polished nails, tapping at her screen. The same hands that had gripped the wine glass. The same hands that had hugged Jason goodbye? I didn't know. But now even ordinary things felt staged. Like our house had become a set and I was the only one who hadn't read the script. After she left for work, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at nothing. That sense of unease from the night before had calcified into something sharper. Thicker. I couldn't shake it. I wasn't sure if I was being paranoid or perceptive. I just knew I was different now. Or maybe I was finally paying attention. That day, I started noticing patterns. Subtle ones. The kind you miss when you trust someone implicitly. Like how Claire had been coming home later the past few months. Not every day, not enough to spark alarm at the time, but enough that it made sense now in retrospect. She'd say things like, we're closing a deal, or the partners are keeping me late. But there were gaps in the stories. Vague timelines. Her phone would be on silent. She'd get up to take calls in the other room or outside, claiming it was too loud in here. She used to forget her phone everywhere, the nightstand, the couch cushions, the bathroom counter. Yeah? It was glued to her. Always screened down. Always locked. If it buzzed, she'd casually tilt it away or pick it up with an almost subconscious swiftness. The kind of habit that comes from repetition. Then there were the trips. Claire's sister, Maya, lived about 2 hours north. Used to anyway. They were close once. Spoke on the phone all the time. Visited each other on birthdays. But I hadn't seen Maya in almost a year. Lately, Claire had been going up to check in on her, sometimes for a weekend, sometimes just overnight. It used to be maybe twice a year. Suddenly, it was once a month. I texted Maya that afternoon under the pretense of planning a surprise for Claire's birthday. She took a few hours to reply, but when she did, her message was simple, "Hey Ethan. I haven't seen Claire in forever. She okay?" I stared at the screen. Read it twice. A cold, hollow feeling spread through my chest. She was lying. Flat out. I didn't respond. Not then. I couldn't. I just sat on the edge of our bed, the phone in my hand, feeling like the air had thickened around me. That night, when Claire got home, I tried to study her without being obvious. She looked tired. Worn out, maybe. But there was a certain lightness in her voice I hadn't heard in a long time, the kind people have when they're getting something off their chest. Or getting away with something. She mentioned something about ordering Thai, said she was craving yellow curry. She always hated yellow curry. I remembered because it became a running joke how she called it coconut regret. Now she liked it? What changed? I asked, trying to sound casual. You hated yellow curry. She paused for just a second. I guess I gave it another try recently. It grew on me. That pause told me everything. That half second of calculation. A simple answer would have come instantly. But this was curated. Tailored. Maybe I'll try it again too, I said, just to watch her face. She smiled, but it was tight. Controlled. After dinner, I saw her step out back to take a call. I didn't follow, but I listened. Through the glass door, I heard the tone of her voice shift. Not the words, just the softness. The way she laughed. That specific kind of laugh people save for someone they're not supposed to enjoy that much. Later that week, I accidentally picked up her tablet, the one she used for work. She was in the shower. I didn't have a motive yet, just curiosity. But as soon as I touched the screen, I heard the water shut off. Her voice was suddenly sharp. "Ethan? What are you doing?" "Just grabbing the tablet. Thought I'd check some headlines." She stepped into the hallway in a towel, face flushed. "Can you not go through my stuff? It's just the tablet. It's synced to my firm. It's confidential." I raised an eyebrow. "You've never said that before." "Well, I'm saying it now." The tension lingered the rest of the evening. She didn't apologize. I didn't push. But inside, a clock had started ticking. I began testing her gently, asking questions I already knew the answer to, seeing if she'd lie. Once I asked how her meeting with Carol from HR had gone. There was no meeting with Carol. I made her up. Claire blinked, then nodded. "Oh, it was fine. Pretty standard." Standard. I felt sick. She was lying with ease now. With rhythm. I started sleeping less. Eating less. My appetite came and went in waves. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and just lie there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe beside me, wondering where her mind was, wondering if she was dreaming of me, or him. And then there were the pictures. I hadn't noticed it before, but the house had slowly changed. Subtle things like how fewer photos of us were on display. The wedding picture from Maine, the one we used to keep on the entry table, had been replaced by a landscape print. The framed photo of us at the cabin, laughing over burnt marshmallows, was gone. I found it in a drawer later, face down under some old tax folders. When I asked her about it, I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat down. The silence in the room was deafening. The refrigerator hummed in the background. The clock ticked on the wall, each second hammering louder than the one before. What do you do when your reality breaks mid-sentence? I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just sat there. Eventually, I stood up, walked to the hallway closet, and grabbed the lockbox key. We had installed home security cameras a few years ago, nothing elaborate, just basic front door footage and one camera facing the garage. Claire had been annoyed at first, said it made the place feel cold. But when we got a few packages stolen during the holidays, she changed her tune. After that, we both got used to the little blinking light. I rarely checked the footage unless there was a delivery or a squirrel knocked something over. But now I needed to know. I pulled up the app on my desktop, logging into the archive. It stores clips for 30 days. I selected the last full week, scrubbing through footage, watching mostly nothing, mail carriers, a neighbor's cat, wind blowing leaves. Then I found her. Tuesday, 7:11 p.m. Claire exited the front door wearing that red coat I never liked. She was wheeling her travel bag behind her. In her other hand, she held something, a garment bag, maybe. A man was walking behind her. He wasn't rushing. Comfortable. At ease. Tall. Athletic build. Dark hair. I didn't recognize him. He reached down, grabbed the handle of her suitcase. Claire laughed at something he said. I couldn't hear the sound, but I knew her expressions. That laugh? It wasn't polite. It was warm. Familiar. An asterisk mate. He leaned in and kissed her cheek. She didn't flinch. She smiled. Then they walked out of frame. I sat back in my chair, cold spreading through my chest like ink in water. She had taken another man on a trip. Used our money. Our life. Our name. I clicked to Wednesday. They returned together. She got out of the passenger seat. Same guy. He pulled her luggage from the trunk. They looked synchronized. A routine too rehearsed to be casual. I didn't watch anymore. I'd seen enough. I didn't say anything to her that night when she called from the hotel. I answered, kept my voice light. She said she was tired. Long meetings. Lots of coffee. She promised to bring me fudge. Thanks, I said. I appreciate it. There was a pause. Maybe she noticed something in my tone. Or maybe not. She said she'd call me in the morning. Said she loved me. I said it back. It felt like reciting someone else's line in a play I didn't audition for. After the call, I sat alone in the dark for a long time. Then I printed the footage stills, paused frames showing her leaving with him, the smile, the suitcase, the return. I printed the hotel email too. tucked them all into a manila envelope. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I needed it to be tangible. Proof that I hadn't imagined any of this. The next day, I cleaned out our filing cabinet. Quietly, carefully, I took our marriage certificate, insurance documents, tax records, made digital copies, uploaded everything to a private drive. Password protected. I wasn't sure where this would end, but I knew how it would begin with preparation. The night Claire returned, she came in through the back door. Her hair was a little windblown, cheeks pink from the cold. She smelled like hotel soap and the soft floral perfume I hadn't smelled on her in years. The same one she used to wear when we were dating. She smiled when she saw me. Kissed my cheek. "I missed you," she said. I nodded. "How was the conference?" She launched into a story about an attorney from Boston who spilled wine on a judge's blazer during a networking hour. I smiled in the right places. Laughed when she did. Nodded at the pauses. But all I could hear was her voice layered over the memory of the footage. The lie within the truth. The performance. Later that night, when she went upstairs to unpack, I watched her go, each step another inch of distance I couldn't unsee. I slept beside her that night. Listened to her breathing. Wondered if she dreamt about him. If she even felt guilt? Or if I had already become an accessory in her story, the husband she left emotionally long ago. The truth wasn't vague anymore. It was raw. And it left no space for denial. I'd lived for months trying to decipher signs, perfume, laughter, schedule changes, wine glasses. Now I had something more than fragments. Now I had fact. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just began slowly to accept that the life I thought I was living no longer existed. And the man I was? He would have to be someone else now. I didn't confront Claire. Not then. Not the next day. Not the day after. That's the thing about truth. Once it's undeniable, it stops screaming. It just sits there. Quiet. Heavy. And you learn to work around it. Like a broken bone you never set properly, so now you just limp. I knew what she had done. I had evidence. I had motive. But I also had something else, clarity. And that made me dangerous in a way I hadn't been before. So I started planning. Not out of rage, but resolve. The next Monday, I left work early and drove 2 towns over to a place called Maple Ridge, population maybe 10,000 if you counted the retirees and pets. Quiet, mostly woodlands and mountain air. I found a small apartment complex on the edge of town, surrounded by pine and silence. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, kitchenette, no questions asked. I signed the lease under my middle name, Marshall Ethan, using my work ID and an alternate email I hadn't touched in years. The landlord, a guy in his 70s with a faded baseball cap and nicotine breath, didn't even blink when I paid the deposit in cash. "Starting over?" he asked, half joking. "Something like that," I said. Over the next 2 weeks, I built an exit strategy the way some men build model trains, with obsession, precision, and the kind of focus you only have when everything else in your life is crumbling. Every piece of my plan had to move quietly. Every step deliberate. I couldn't afford mistakes. Claire was still Claire, sharp, observant, and dangerously charming when she wanted to be. If she sensed what I was doing, the power dynamic would shift. And I wasn't going to give her that. First, the finances. We had a joint account like most couples. But I'd always kept a personal one, my project account, I called it. Claire knew about it, but she never cared enough to track it. That's where I started funneling funds. Slowly. Rounded off transfers. A few hundred here and there from client invoices. Then I opened a new account under my business LLC. Moved the bigger chunks there, savings, bonuses, a few mutual fund redemptions I could justify under capital needs. Next, the documents. One night while Claire was in the shower, I slipped into the home office and took what mattered. Birth certificate, social security card, passport, old tax filings. I copied everything to a USB drive and uploaded backups to an encrypted cloud. Then I placed the originals into a fireproof box and stored them under the passenger seat in my truck, beneath the carpeted lining. After that came the personal items. The things that mattered only to me. I rented a 10 by 10 storage unit near Ashwood Valley, not the apartment town, but the next one over. Used a burner debit card and told the clerk I was clearing out my parents' basement. Over the course of 6 days, I moved things in, my antique woodworking tools, the ones passed down from my grandfather, a collection of signed books, my rare vinyl records. And, most painful of all, the cedar clock I'd carved during our first year of marriage. It didn't tick anymore, but I couldn't leave it behind. I made sure Claire never noticed. On paper, I was still Ethan Marshall, husband, contractor, decent cook, poor at folding laundry. But inside, I had gone silent. Detached. Not cold, not cruel. Just absent. She didn't notice. Maybe she was too wrapped up in her own dual life. Or maybe she thought I was too blind to change. But while she laughed at texts that weren't mine and smoothed her hair before mysterious networking events, I was removing myself from our life one item at a time. Sometimes I watched her sleep. Not out of affection, not anymore, but curiosity. She looked peaceful. Untroubled. I'd wonder if she ever lay awake thinking about what she was doing. If she considered how many times she had to lie before it became second nature. If she ever felt a flicker of guilt when I made her coffee or ironed her blouses for court. I didn't ask. I didn't care to. One weekend, she said she was heading out again, this time for a board retreat. I didn't flinch. Just nodded. Helped her carry her luggage to the car. Watched her check her lipstick in the rearview mirror. "You okay?" she asked before pulling out of the driveway. I smiled. "Yeah. Go impress them." She kissed my cheek. I watched her drive away with the same calm I might have watching a garbage truck pass by. That night, I moved the last batch of things. I'd timed it perfectly. She wouldn't be back until Monday, and I had 48 hours to strip myself out of the home we'd built, like pulling stitches from an old scar. I spent the next day with Logan. Our son had been in residential care since he was 12. Severe anxiety, mood regulation issues. It wasn't something we talked about publicly. Claire never liked to explain it. She said it made people look at us differently. But I didn't care about people. I cared about him. He was 17 now. Better. Not fixed, because that's not how it works. But better. We sat on a bench outside the facility watching the staff plant new flowers. He told me about his art project, a comic book about a time traveler with no past. I told him it sounded brilliant. He asked when Mom was coming next. I said she was busy with work. He didn't look surprised. I didn't tell him about the unraveling. Not yet. He didn't need that weight. "Are you happy, Dad?" he asked suddenly. I paused. Thought about the apartment with no furniture. The empty house with all my memories. The manila envelope in my glove box. The way Claire smiled when she lied. "Getting there," I said. He nodded. "Cool." That night, I sat in the empty apartment, cross-legged on the floor, a takeout box of lo mein beside me. There were no curtains yet, no bed frame. Just silence and the low hum of a ceiling fan. I breathed. No tension. No fake laughs. No secrets under my roof. Just a quiet that finally made sense. She came home on a Sunday night. I heard her keys hit the counter before I saw her. Then came the familiar shuffle of heels on the hardwood, her luggage wheels bumping the entryway tile. The suitcase thudded softly against the wall like it always did. Then came her voice, "Ethan?" I was upstairs, sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed but motionless. I didn't respond. Not right away. I listened to her move through the house. She went into the kitchen. The fridge opened, closed. Cabinet door. A spoon clinked against a mug. She was making tea. That's what she always did after a trip. Peppermint. No sugar. Her routine was still intact. Mine was already gone. She came up a few minutes later. I heard the soft creak of the stairs, the weight of her in the hallway, then a pause at the bedroom door. "You okay?" she asked. "You're quiet." I turned my head slightly. "Just tired." She nodded, stepping into the room. "The retreat went well," she said. "We made some big progress. It was productive." That word again. Productive. She said it like it was currency. As if she could measure the worth of her betrayal in how many talking points she brought home. She undressed in the half-light, moving with habitual confidence. A little slower than usual, maybe from the drive. Maybe from guilt, though I doubted it. I watched her remove her earrings one at a time. She caught me looking in the mirror. "What?" she asked, teasing. "See something you like?" I didn't answer. That night, I didn't touch her. I turned to my side and listened to her fall asleep. Her breath evened out. Her hand grazed my shoulder once in her sleep, reflex more than affection. I stared at the ceiling for hours. By morning, I knew it was time. I waited until she left for court. She wore navy again. Power color. Sharp. She kissed my cheek before walking out the door and told me not to wait up, long trial day ahead. I nodded. "Good luck." She smiled. That smile, the one I used to believe in. The second the door clicked shut behind her, I stood up. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. This was a move rehearsed 100 times in my mind. A quiet exit. No drama. No final speech. Just the truth left behind in stillness. I loaded the last of my things into the truck. A few clothes. The photo album she hadn't hidden. A watch Logan made me for Father's Day 3 years ago, a plastic band with crooked letters that said "Real Hero." By noon, everything of mine was gone. In the kitchen, I placed the manila envelope on the counter. It held the printed hotel confirmation. The security footage stills. A single page of the divorce papers and signed but very real. On top of it I set a photo printed from the security footage. Claire, walking out of our house beside him, smiling in that way I hadn't seen in years. And right above the image I laid my wedding ring. No note. No explanations. Just artifacts. Evidence of absence. I didn't look back. I closed the door, locked it from the outside, and slid the new key, the one to the changed locks, under the mat. That house? It wasn't mine anymore. She had spent the past year building a new life inside its walls. One that didn't include me. One she didn't think I'd notice. So I left. She texted me around 5. Claire, hey, did you eat? I can pick up Ty. Claire, Ethan? I let the messages sit unread. Around 8, the calls started. I ignored each one. By 10:13 p.m. she used the home landline. Left a voicemail. Her voice sounded small. Ethan. I just got home. Where are you? I saw what you left. Can we talk? Please? I didn't answer. I was already gone. That night, I slept on a mattress on the floor in Ashwood Valley. No box spring, no bed frame. Just flannel sheets and a folded hoodie for a pillow. The place smelled like fresh paint and pine. It wasn't home, not yet. But it was mine. Uncomplicated. Honest. The next day, I filed the divorce paperwork. Officially. Quietly. I used the envelope she'd left untouched. Send it through registered mail. Claire tried reaching out again. Texts. Voicemails. One email that started with, I'm so sorry, and ended with, we can fix this. There was nothing to fix. We had crossed the point where forgiveness meant forgetting, and I wasn't willing to pretend anymore. She even showed up once. At my worksite. I was refinishing a built-in bookcase for a restored farmhouse when I saw her standing beside my truck. Same coat. Same face. Different eyes. I just want to talk, she said. I don't, I said. She flinched. Please, she said. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. You gave me all the explanation I needed. She looked like she might cry. But I'd seen her cry before. Real tears. These felt more like regret over getting caught. I miss you, she said. I shrugged. I missed me too. I turned and walked back inside. She didn't follow. That night, Logan called. He said he got into a community college upstate, said he wanted to be closer to me. We made plans to find him a little room nearby. Somewhere with a window that got morning light. I told him I'd help him build a desk. Something strong. Something he could make his own. I didn't tell him about his mother. Not yet. He'd feel it eventually, the shift. But I wanted to give him something steady first, a place that didn't tilt under his feet. In the weeks that followed, the silence from Claire grew louder. Her name stopped lighting up my phone. Our mutual friends started sending cryptic texts. Thinking of you. If you need to talk. You didn't deserve that. I never asked what she'd told them. It didn't matter. The truth has a way of surfacing even when people try to dress it up in softer stories. I kept moving forward. Logan moved in 2 months later. I gave him the bigger bedroom. We bought a used couch. Found a chipped kitchen table with a story behind it. The apartment didn't feel lonely anymore. Sometimes I'd wake up and forget the ring wasn't on my finger. My hand would search for its weight. But I'd remember. And that remembering didn't hurt the way it used to. Claire sent one final message on our anniversary. Claire, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I just want to say I'm sorry. I still love you. I didn't reply. Because she didn't love me. She loved the version of me that didn't see. And I wasn't blind anymore.